If you think podcasts suck, you're not alone. I kind of used to think so too, but like our special guest today kindly puts it, podcasts suck if you don't have one. Let's find out why.
It's time to be kind with Marley Q.
Because the time to be kind to ourselves, each other, and the world is now.
Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for making time to be kind. I am Marley Q, and today I have such a special guest Parker with us. His name is Sebastian Rusk. We go way back. I can't wait for you to meet him. He's a keynote speaker and a comedian, and I cannot wait to hear that journey of how that all got sparked. Sebastian is also an author of at least 2 books that I know of, and I love the names of his books. Social Media Sucks If You Don't Know What You're Doing, and Podcasts Suck If You Don't Have One. How clever is that? He is a master digital storyteller and a podcast launch specialist who has made it his mission to help people share their stories by starting a podcast. So if you're interested in that, let's get to it and help me welcome to the show, Sebastian.
Thanks, Marley. How are you?
Oh my God, I'm so happy that you're here making time to be kind with me. It's been a while. The last event that I had for the public, for the community, was my 5K Park Fest in 2016, my in-person 5K event that I created along with a small team of volunteers. And you were the first person that I called to say, hey, do you think you can help me MC? Can you make that time to be kind and MC this event? And you, without a moment to even, you're like, yeah, count on me. I'll be there. Do you remember that?
I do. I've since retired as an MC, probably 5 years now. It's a miserable existence. But yes, there was a point in time that I did MC a lot, and especially local for my people, and had a great run with it.
Yeah. And you did it for me. I appreciate you doing something that, you were probably on the tail end of like, all right, I'm done with this MC. I have a voice. I have a story. I have a mission. There's more that I want to do. Can you tell me what sparked your podcast launch lab? But where do you want to start?
I mean, I think it's important to back up to the beginning of the story to help people really understand, for some context on how it all unfolded. So I raised my daughter on my own, which my daughter, Kayla, and I've been in a lot of the same rooms as her, which is wild to even say. I spent the past, not the past, she'll be 22 on Thursday at the time of us recording this, but I raised her up until, it was time for college, and then she went away to college. So a majority of my time was consumed on raising my kid and then also figuring out what I was going to do next. I lost everything in 2008. So I moved back to Miami, and it took a little bit of time to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I had an awakening moment in 2018 or 2010 and decided I wanted to go seek Tony Robbins. So I called a friend that was working for Tony at the time, and she connected me with her best friend, who actually is part of Tony's core team still to this day, part of a core team of 6 that travels with Tony. And we linked up. I want to say it was late 2010, and I didn't have much going on. I knew that I was going to be doing something in the social space. I had not yet figured it out. So I met up with her that same week that we had been introduced, and I'll never forget it. We were on Ocean Drive at Fridays. I mean, what a great place to bring anybody. It was budget friendly for me at the time, because I wasn't sure who was going to end up paying the tab, and I knew what I could and couldn't do. And Fridays 2-for-1 happy hour sounded perfect. So I met up with her, and I'll never forget, we were sitting there on Ocean Drive, and she said, so what's next? And I said, I don't know. And she looked me dead in the eyes, and she goes, that is a problem. Now, that was the PG version of what she had given me, but I thought, these are my offended days. So I'm thinking, well, what does she mean? Like, why is what I'm doing in my life a problem? And I said, well, she works for Tony, which is no easy feat to do. And I should probably, humble myself and just stay curious. So I said, so what do you mean by that? And she said, I'll tell you exactly what I mean. And this is where it all changed. She looked at me and she said, Sebastian, who's missing out because you're not showing up? And I thought, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. She's like, all this, you're like, you got it. Like, you got the it factor. You're not born with that. You can't learn that. You can't read a book. You just got it. And if you don't do something with it, people are missing out. And, this whole social media thing, you sent me that video, a lot of buzz around it. You can start a YouTube channel. You can do all kinds of different stuff, but like, do something with what you know and with the talent. I mean, I've known you for like 2 days. And I said, so what about social buzz TV? And she goes, sounds great to me. So that Monday I sent that to a Fiverr designer, and they came back with what would become the social buzz TV logo. So I started running around town, no car, no money, had a bus pass and a skateboard. And I would go to networking events, and I would show up anywhere that they would let me in with a flip cam and a bow tie. I quickly started to realize, well, maybe I can do this on my own. Maybe I can start, instead of going to events, I can host my own. So I started doing that in the beginning of 2011. My very first social buzz TV buzz networker was at Morton's here in Coral Gables. And
I remember.
Yeah, it was January of 2011. I 2011. And my friend Christina worked at that Morton's, so I had a little bit of an advantage because she was handling all the events. Because I was like, listen, I need this venue for free. I need you to provide appetizers and one drink. Nobody drinks one drink in Miami, so people will spend money at the bar. And then I also need the room upstairs the next day. I can't pay for anything, but I'll bring people here. I'll tell them all about you. So she said, all right, let's do it. So I did that, and I continued to rinse and repeat. Then Fleming's would find out, and Seasons 52 would find out, and another venue would find out. And quickly I was able to figure out that I could host these networking events, and then I could bring people to a boot camp. And then from those two interactions, people would say, well, maybe you can help me with my social media. And that was the birth of the Social Buzz Agency. Is in 2011, people would come to my boot camp or my event and be like, hey, can you help me? So at that point in time, anybody with a budget was my ideal client, was my avatar, and was able to really sell Social Buzz TV off the ground. Right around this time, I was introduced to a guy by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk. And Gary just became an incredible mentor and friend of mine right in the midst of all of this. And it was perfect timing because I had just read his first book called Crush It, about building my personal brand. But I also becoming, friends with him and building a relationship with him allowed me to really pinpoint exactly what I would be doing. And, one of the first things he taught me was that, you have to build a personal brand. Everybody's building a personal brand now. It's 2023. Everyone wants to be a speaker. Everyone wants to be an author. It's all cool now. But in 2010, people were like, this is crazy. What are you talking about? No.
Yeah.
But I saw what, Gary's has an incredible gift for being able to predict the future. So he said, your personal brand in perpetuity is your reputation. And I never forgot that. So I simultaneously built the Sebastian Rusk brand as a speaker, author, and storyteller. And then I built my company as Social Buzz TV as the agency that would help people figure out their world of social media. So that was cool and everything. But 2016 rolled around. I did that for about 5 years. 2016 rolled around, and I just hated what I did. I hated the bow tie. I hated the work. I hated the events. Have you been to a networking event in Miami? The less than pleasurable experience. And so I thought, something's got to change here. And what I found, Marley, is that I don't hate all those things. I hate me. After some deep, deep searching on what's next for me, and you really need to tweak what's next and what's going on, I met a girl on Tinder in the beginning of 2016. This is when Tinder was not a hookup site. We could actually meet people. And I met her on March 1st of 2016. We met for a drink up in Fort Lauderdale. And she goes, I'm in this personal development program right now. I was like, let me tell you about personal development. I mean, I am personal development. Walked on Fire with Tony Robbins, did it twice. Landmark Forum, you name it, I've done it. I'm in integration mode. Total lie. And she's like, that's great. I'm in this program right now. It's called gratitude training. It's amazing, and this, that, and the other, and you should check it out. And I said, listen, I'm interested in you, not any more personal development courses right now. But she quickly, was able to figure out a way within the next couple of weeks to get me enrolled in that program and get me through the doors of that program. And I had no idea that program, while no longer in existence, unfortunately, they ran it into the ground somehow, but it turned into an incredible movement for 3 or 4 years. But I was there in the very beginning phases of all this. And I went in and did part 1 and part 2 of this. There was 3 parts to it, but it was a made up part 3. And I knew that it was not, it was a way to keep people around. So I knew that part 1 and 2 would be enough for me. And I was extremely resistant to going through this program. The girl broke up with me in the middle of the program, as if personal development's not hard enough. But when I came out of this, I kept, they kept saying, just finish the training, just finish the training, just finish the training. Whatever's on the other end of this is. So I took an unplanned year off in 2016. How I survived is beyond me. I think I took out a line of credit or something. I have no idea, but I survived. I got done with that program in July, I think, both parts of it. And on the other side of that, I came out of that learning, number one, how to love myself. And then the next step in that process is full, complete accountability for my life and everything that happens to me and has happened to me in my life since the day that I was born, and then ongoing as well. Everything, let me repeat that again for those of you listening. Everything that happens in your life is your fault. Do you understand that? I understand circumstances and, oh my gosh, you don't know what they did. And I don't, but I still know that we played a role in it somewhere along the line, and we've got the ability to take ownership of that. And I stepped into that role in a very, very resistant manner. I want to love myself, but I'd rather stay miserable. I want to be, So I wrestled with all that. And then I came out of it and I finally realized, okay, fine. We did the work. It's time to put the work into play. It didn't work out with the girl. So what? You're not happy with the work you're doing. We need to figure this all out. So another awakening moment happened. In September of 2016, I woke up and I'm like, all right, out of my way. We got to figure this out. And I got up and I went and rented a desk at a co-working space here in Coral Gables. And I ran into a friend that I met through the business world. And I said, hey, how's it going? She goes, great. I have an internet radio show. And I was like, well, what is that? And she's like, well, I do this, I do that. And I was like, there's a better way. Like you can start a podcast. And I was walking her down to her car and she's like, I don't know how to start a podcast. She's like, you should create like a course or something to help people start a podcast. And when I say like, cue the hallelujah chorus, like the light bulb went on, ding, 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 ding. This is it. And I'm like, that's it. Because how do I stay in the space that I built my personal brand in and the digital space? I put 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears in building this from nothing. And then all of a sudden I'm the typical on to the next thing. But now with podcasting, because I was able to stay within the social media world, digital space, and still really niche down and find my calling, what would become my life's work. I didn't know it at the moment, but it would become my life's work. And I immediately went back upstairs and mapped up in my new rented desk what would become the Podcast Launch Lab, which is a turnkey podcast launch solution to take marketers, entrepreneurs, business owners, and marketing teams from idea to iTunes in 90 days or less by successfully launching a podcast with our proven podcast launch solution. So there's been a lot of growth with the program and what we've done and how I've tweaked it and how I've done. And I've continued to grow and go back in and stay, committed to the work that I initially committed to on Sebastian. Because if you're not working on yourself, nothing else is going to work. It may for a little while, but eventually the house of cards is going to come tumbling down. And to me, that just terrified me that I was going to put effort into building something. And then all of a sudden it was just going to come down because I chose to just not heal. So on the back of the healing journey came the Podcast Launch Lab. And, as I continued to unpack this more and more and more, it's kind of wild that I ended up in the world of podcasting because my dad was a radio DJ for 30 years and I grew up in a radio station and I had absolutely zero desire to follow my old man's footsteps. I mean, zero. And, here we are. We've been rocking and rolling. I went all in doing this full time right around the end of 2018. So I started to phase out Social Buzz TV, closed that in 2018, early 2019, and said, listen, if it's not podcasting, I'm just not doing it. If it's not speaking, communicating, storytelling, and helping people start a podcast, I'm just not interested in what I've done. And here we are, year 7 since I've started the company, year 4 or 5 since I really went all in, but things are going great. We did multiple 6 figures last year. We're on pace to do well over $500,000 in revenue this year. I'm not slowing down by any stretch of the imagination. So yeah, that's how it all started,
Oh, can we pause for a moment? I can't clap because my audio people will get crazy, but I'm so happy. And that was a short version, folks. Yeah. That was like the abbreviated version. And for me, it was so beautiful to hear that because for over like 15 years or so, we've both been, from what I can observe on a similar journey. And I think it's all every entrepreneur's kind of journey, right? Of like getting started, doing like the hustle, really working really hard, kind of figuring it out, doing like burnout. I'm not sure about this. Really asking yourself those questions, doing that healing work and that personal development work is really the way, like the foundation. And at least for me, I didn't get started that way at all. Mine was kind of 2016, actually. October 2016 was the 5K Park Fest. And that was like the last straw that Marley Q could take. That was the last event where I would allow myself to treat myself the way that I used to. And I would put my heart and soul into creating an event or putting out anything for the community, with it affecting me and sacrificing so much personally, like mentally, health-wise, financially, etc. And making that choice of like, I need to do some serious healing work here. Like, where is this coming from, right? The same pattern of working and at the end feeling like burnt out, exhausted, or not fulfilled, right? And it really, really did start that same way for me, where a point where you just need to decide, I've got to do some like personal development work, real healing work. And for me, it took some time. I took quite a bit of time off. And I think the podcast was already in my mind for a few years. And you were a big inspiration for even that entering, like that seed being planted in my mind. Wanted to tell you that. It took some time to blossom because I'm stubborn and resistant to, I didn't want to be behind the mic. I didn't want to do the video. I just wanted to spread kindness and do my thing in my organic grassroots in-person way that I've been doing. But I'm really knowing and being frustrated by, I can't amplify. I can't really make the impact that I want to make in the world if I continue to kind of keep it small, because I'm unwilling to shamelessly self-promote or to be a personal brand, right? So in 2018, right before I had my first baby, is when I officially changed my business name. And I'm like, I am Marley Q. right? And became a personal brand. And if it was events that were burning me out, what I love about events was the community building aspect of it, right? So you and I have been community builders for years, for over a decade. You've been a master in the online and digital space, which I'm just getting started here, right? Why do you think that that's the best avenue to amplify your story and make an impact?
I don't think it's a fit for everyone. It's for people that have had that nudge, or someone said, you should start a podcast and here's why, and that resonated with you. And you constantly get that urge to go, maybe this is the next step. But more importantly, you figured out why you want to do it. No one's going to figure out why you should be doing something. That's your job and your responsibility to do. So when people come to me and say, I want to start a podcast, I go, great, why? If they can't answer the question, they need to go back to the drawing board and then come back to me once you figure out why you're doing what you're doing. If you're doing it just because, well, I mean, every Tom, Dick, Harry, Mary, and Jane are doing it, that's not a sufficient answer. You need to be anchored into your why of what you're going to do, because that's going to transfer through to the work that you're actually doing. If it's just, there's a lot of people that want to be speakers because everyone else is a speaker. A lot of people out there want to write a book because they see somebody else writing a book. What do you want to do? What is your God-given gift, and what have you been tapped out to do as part of your mission? Forget about what everybody else is doing. So if you've had that inclination of like, this is my natural next step, of wanting to start a podcast, that's where I come in. You got two options of doing it. You go out alone and be a do-it-yourselfer, or you can hire an expert that's going to expedite the process of getting you there faster, like anything else. I could change the oil in my car if I wanted to. I can also go to Jiffy Lube and pay $50 and be done with it in 10 minutes. So, figuring out why you should actually be doing something, whether it's a podcast, a YouTube channel, writing a book, whatever it is that you decide is for you. Yeah, I mean, I think that podcasting is the ultimate networking tool. So what I teach is the ability to start a podcast because it gets you in front of people you can do business with. Your prospects, your dream 25 list, people you want to do business with, people you come in contact with. I mean, I do it on a daily basis of just simple conversations with people that I want to meet, build a relationship, build rapport with. And if they don't have a podcast, I'm sure enough going to ask them when they're starting a podcast. We're able to convert a majority of those people over to agency clients. That's exactly what we teach as a business. So if you're a coach, entrepreneur, solopreneur, a SaaS company, business consultant, whatever it might be, you have something to sell, and you do that by identifying new people that are a fit within your avatar of people. A podcast is at the top of that list to be able to initiate those relationships and actually sell them to someone. It's the whole idea of an audience of one. Not worried about everyone wants 15, 16,000 downloads a month and to be the next Joe Rogan. I got news for you. You're probably never going to get there. And I'm not here to diminish any of your dreams at all, but it's very important you stay realistic when putting those dreams together and understanding that I need to make sure that I'm going to be the next Sebastian Rusk, not the next whatever it may be, or removing the comparison game from that. But that podcasting will change your life and your business if you let it, but you've got to be willing to put in the work, stay committed to the process and the work that's being done before you give yourself permission to throw the towel in and say, well, it just doesn't work. I mean, the patience is, Gary's taught this for over a decade. I mean, patience is just so grossly underrated because everybody wants it yesterday. I've been at this for 2 years. Great. Might take you another 10. It's just a reality. It's going to take as long as it's going to take, but you also need to be at the same level of growth as your business is in as a person. If you're not moving and evolving at the same pace as a human and healing and staying committed to the work as much as your business is growing, there's going to be some sort of inconsistency there that's going to continue to hold you back. And I was there forever. I mean, I was just in complete bondage of why, stuck in this bitter comparison game as if it was somebody else's fault or somebody else's responsibility. But when I was able to just say, hey, dude, this is all your fault. You created this entire problem, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to look at it as, you're the only one that can figure it all out. So the only way out is through, and that's through us as an individual going in and addressing whatever needs to get addressed from our standpoint, to check the ego, to check the habitual habits we've been able to develop in our mind and story we've been living by, and break those cycles so that we can figure out what's next. And listen, it's not an easy task. I'm committed to the work every single day of my life. And most days I just don't want to do the work, and I just don't feel like doing the work. And some days I have to remind myself what the work is. The work is much more than, not punching people in the throat every day. It's so much more than that. And that's on the top of a majority of people's, priority lists of like, how do I stay sane and not want to, throat punch everyone.
You know, when my mission in the world and the reason that I started a podcast, like my why is to spread kindness and to be like the spark of kindness, connection, and community, and have a platform that I feel I've been consistent in growing in, again, organically and in person here in South Florida, this movement since 2010, right? And you've been a part of this from like almost the very, very beginning. Growing that into now an online space has allowed me to, I had to do a lot of healing work to allow myself to step into this kindness influencer role and really step behind a microphone or a video camera or a stage powerfully and say, kindness is valuable. We should invest in kindness, and in leadership teams. We should invest in kindness at work, at home, in our schools, in our community. Kindness is a valuable currency that I think if we valued more, we would have more of it, and we wouldn't feel like, you know, our goal for the day is to not punch somebody in the face.
That throat has a different effect.
I love it. I'm so grateful for your time, your kindness, your energy, and also all of the podcast tips that you've shared with me already. It's going to make my show better. I appreciate you. Please connect with Sebastian. He's a wealth of resources, and he's also just such a kind Parker. Can you tell, by the way, what does a Parker stand for? Do you remember? Putting you on the spot.
Performing acts of random kindness.
Yes. So Parker is a person that performs acts of random kindness. Boom.
I still have my hat and I have my pin.
Oh, I love that. That's forever. Those are forever memories, my friend. Thank you so much. At least we have one really positive, good feeling memory as an MC when you did it for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Why you gotta trigger me? Why you gotta poke the bear? So great to chat with you. And thanks so much for the opportunity. So proud of you for launching the podcast. I don't want to say finally, but launching the podcast. And the whole setup's fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a Parker. And again, making this time to be kind with me and all of us listening. See you next time.